The crystal towers of Kepler 442b sang their morning song, as they had for 1,000 years. The sound filled the air like music, beautiful and clear. Ambassador Lyrat H stood on the highest platform of the great tower, her crystal body catching the light of their twin suns. She was old, even by Zephyrian standards, and her crystal form glowed with a soft blue light that showed her wisdom dot below her. The city of harmony stretched out like a field of living gems. Each building was grown from pure crystal, shaped by the harmonic voices of her people. The Zephyrians had built their entire civilization around sound and music. They spoke in tones that could make crystal grow, repair damaged structures, and even heal the sick dot. But today, something was wrong. The morning song sounded different. There was fear in it, a deep trembling that made the crystals shake. Lyrith felt it in her core, a vibration that spoke of danger coming from the dark spaces between the stars. Ambassador, called Veltar, one of the younger council members. His voice rang like a bell, but even he could not hide his worry. The outer sensors had detected something. You need to see this. Lyrith followed him down the spiral path inside the tower. The walls glowed softly, responding to their presence. They entered the communication chamber, where dozens of Zephyrians worked at crystal consoles. The room hummed with activity, but the usual peaceful harmony was replaced by urgent, worried tones. Show me, Lyrat H said. The main display crystal flickered to life, showing the space around their planet. At first, everything looked normal. Their 2 moons hung in the sky like silver coins, the asteroid belt that protected them from space. Debris sparkled with reflected sunlight. But there, at the edge of the system, 3 dark shapes moved toward them. They came from the void, Veltar explained. No light, no heat, no radio signals. Just empty space, and then suddenly they were there. Lyrith studied the shapes. They were huge, each one the size of a small moon. But they were not made of rock or metal. They looked organic, like living things, but wrong somehow. They moved with purpose, heading straight for Kepler 442b. Have you tried to communicate with them? She asked. We sent greetings in every language we know. We used light signals, radio waves, even our harmonic frequencies. Nothing. They just keep coming. As they watched, the 3 ships got closer. The Zephyrian sensors began to pick up more details. The ships were covered in a black substance that seemed to absorb light. They had no windows, no obvious engines, no signs of the beings inside. They were like holes in space, dark and hungry. How long until they reach us? Lyrith asked. 18 hours at their current speed, replied another technician, her voice shaking. Lyrith felt a chill run through her crystal body. She had heard stories from other worlds, whispers carried by traders and explorers. Stories of ships that came from nowhere, of planets that went dark, of entire civilizations that simply vanished. They called them the Void Swarm. Send a message to the Galactic Federation, she ordered. Priority 1. Tell them we need immediate military assistance. The technicians worked quickly, their harmonic voices creating the complex patterns needed to send a message across the galaxy. The Federation was a group of 12 advanced species that worked together to keep peace in their part of space. They had ships, weapons, and the power to fight threats that single worlds could not handle alone. The message went out at faster than light speed, carried by quantum transmitters that could reach any Federation world in hours. Along with the request for help, they included all their sensor data about the approaching ships. While they waited for a response, Lyrith called an emergency meeting of the High Council. The 7 eldest Zephyrians gathered in the Chamber of Voices, a circular room where their combined harmonics could be heard across the entire planet. "The Void Swarm has found us," she announced. The words created a discord that made the crystal walls tremble. "We have sent word to the Federation, but we must prepare for the worst." "What do we know about these creatures?" asked Harmon, the eldest after Lyrith. "Very little," she admitted. "They appear every few years, always 3 ships, always heading for inhabited worlds. They do not communicate, do not negotiate, do not show mercy. They simply consume." "Consume what?" asked another council member. "Everything. The life force of the planet itself. They drain the core energy that keeps worlds alive. When they are done, nothing remains but dead rock floating in space." The council members exchanged worried harmonics. They were a peaceful people. They had never needed weapons or armies. Their technology was based on creation, not destruction. They could grow cities from crystals, heal injuries with sound, and travel between stars using harmonic drives. But they had never learned to fight. "How many worlds have they destroyed?" Hermon asked. 17 that we know of," Lyrith replied. "Maybe more. The Federation keeps the number secret to avoid panic." Hours passed. The Void Swarm ships continued their approach, now close enough that their presence was affecting the planet's magnetic field. The crystal cities began to resonate with an unpleasant frequency, one that made the Zephyrians feel sick and afraid. Finally, the reply from the Federation arrived. Lyrith H. read it with growing horror. The message was short and cold. After careful consideration, the Galactic Federation has determined that the Kepler 442 system cannot be defended against the Void Swarm threat. A quarantine zone will be established around your system to prevent the spread of the infestation. We regret that we cannot provide the assistance you have requested. May your final hours be peaceful. The words hit her like a physical blow. They were being abandoned. The Federation, with all its ships and weapons, was simply going to let them die. "They are afraid," Veltar said quietly. "The Federation has never defeated the Void Swarm. They think it is better to sacrifice one world to save many." "Read the rest of the message," Harmon said, his voice heavy with sadness. Lyrith continued reading. The Federation was doing more than just abandoning them. They were actively warning other species to stay away. Any ship that tried to enter the system would be turned back by Federation patrols. The Zephyrians were being cut off from the galaxy. Left to face the Void Swarm alone, the council fell silent. Outside, the planet's crystal cities began to sing a funeral song, a deep, mournful harmony that spoke of endings and lost hope. The Zephyrians had always believed that their music could solve any problem, heal any wound, bring light to any darkness. But now they faced something that could not be reasoned with, something that would not listen to their songs. "There is one thing we can do," Lyrith said finally. "We can tell our story. We can send out a record of who we were, what we accomplished, how we lived. Maybe someone somewhere will remember us." The council agreed. They spent the remaining hours preparing a final transmission. It contained their history, their art, their science, and their music. They included images of their crystal cities, recordings of their greatest symphonies, and explanations of their technology. It was a message in a bottle, cast into the vast ocean of space. As the Void Swarm ships entered orbit around their world, Lyrith stood once more on the highest platform of the great tower. The ships were so large they blocked out the stars. Already, the planet's core was beginning to weaken as the creatures fed. The crystal cities were losing their glow, their songs becoming quieter. "This is Ambassador Lyrith of the Zephyrian people," she broadcast on all frequencies. "We are the last of our kind. We tried to build a civilization based on harmony and beauty. We hurt no one, threatened no one, asked only to be left in peace. But the galaxy has forgotten us in our hour of need." Her voice carried across space, boosted by every transmitter on the planet. The message traveled on radio waves, quantum signals. and harmonic frequencies that could cross the galaxy in days. To whoever receives this message, remember us. Remember that we were here, that we mattered, that we tried to make something beautiful in this dark universe. And if you have the power to help others as we could not be helped, please do not turn away. Please do not let them face the darkness alone. The transmission ended, and Lyra H felt the planet shudder beneath her feet. The void swarm had begun its work. Soon the crystal cities would be dark, the songs would be silent, and the Zephyrians would be nothing but a memory carried by radio waves into the empty spaces between stars. But unknown to her, the message was traveling farther than she had hoped. Beyond Federation space, beyond the reach of their patrols, to a small blue planet where a species called humanity was about to receive the most important message in their history. Dr. Helen Martinez sat in her small office at the CD Institute, drinking her third cup of coffee of the morning. The room was filled with computer screens showing radio signals from space, most of them just static and random noise. She had been searching for signs of alien life for 15 years, and so far, all she had found were dead stars and empty space. But today was different. The signal had come in during the night, picked up by the big radio dishes in the desert. It was not like anything she had ever seen before. Instead of the simple patterns she usually looked for, this signal was complex, layered with multiple frequencies that seemed to dance around each other like music. Helen leaned forward, adjusting her glasses as she studied the data. The signal was definitely artificial, created by intelligence. But it was not in any code she recognized. The patterns were too organic, too flowing, like someone was singing instead of speaking. Computer, run Translation Protocol 7, she said. The computer worked for several minutes, trying to find patterns in the signal. Most of it came back as gibberish, but slowly, certain repeated sequences began to make sense. They were mathematical concepts, basic physics, universal constants that any advanced civilization would know. It's a language, Helen whispered. They're trying to teach us their language. She worked through the morning, mapping the signal's structure. The aliens had been smart, starting with simple concepts and building up to more complex ideas. They had included pictures, transmitted as mathematical descriptions of shapes and colors. Slowly, Helen began to understand. The first clear word she translated was help. It appeared over and over in the signal, combined with images of 3 dark objects approaching a planet. The second word was please. The third was dying. Helen felt her heart start to race. This was not just a greeting from space. This was a distress call. She worked faster, her fingers flying over the keyboard. The aliens called themselves Zephyrians, and they lived on a world of crystal cities. They were being attacked by something called the Void Swarm, creatures that consumed entire planets. They had asked for help from something called the Galactic Federation, but had been refused. The message was a farewell, a final record of their civilization before it was destroyed. But it was also a warning and a plea. To anyone who might be listening, Helen grabbed her phone and called Admiral Jake Morrison at the United Earth Defense Force headquarters. Morrison was a tough former soldier who had helped unite Earth after the global wars. He did not believe in aliens, and he definitely did not believe in getting involved in other people's problems. Morrison, came the gruff voice on the other. And, Jake, it's Helen Martinez. I need you to come to the SETI Institute right away. I've found something. Dr. Martinez, I'm very busy. If you found another radio signal from space, I'm sure it can wait. Jake, they're dying. An entire civilization is being wiped out, and we're the only ones who can help them. There was a long pause. I'll be there in an hour, Morrison said finally. When Morrison arrived, Helen played the translated message for him. The Admiral sat in silence, his weathered face showing no emotion as he listened to the alien plea for help. The message included technical data about the Void Swarm, their weapons, their tactics, and their previous victims. "How do you know this is real?" Morrison asked when the recording ended. "The signal came from the right direction. The star system. A mention exists, and our telescopes show unusual activity there. Plus, the level of detail in this message would be impossible to fake." Morrison stood up and walked to the window, looking out at the desert. "Even if it's real, what can we do? We've only had faster-than-light travel for 2 years. We've got one real warship and a handful of patrol boats. These aliens have technology we can't even imagine, and they're still getting destroyed. But we have something they don't," Helen said. "We have the element of surprise. This Void Swarm has never faced humans before. They don't know what we're capable of." "And what exactly are we capable of?" Morrison asked. Helen smiled. "We're capable of doing the impossible when someone needs help. It's what humans do." Morrison left without making any promises, but Helen knew he would take the message to the government. She continued working on the translation, extracting every bit of information she could from the Zephyrian transmission. 3 days later, she was called to an emergency meeting at the Pentagon. The room was filled with military officers, government officials, and scientists. President Lisa Campbell sat at the head of the table, her face serious. "Dr. Martinez," the president said, "we've confirmed that your alien signal is authentic. Our deep space sensors have detected the same energy signatures in the Kepler 442 system that the message described. The question now is what we do about it." General Kevin Stone, the head of the Joint Chiefs, leaned forward. "Madam President, this could be our chance to establish contact with an advanced alien civilization. If we save them, they might share their technology with us. Or we could get ourselves killed trying to fight something that has destroyed 17 worlds," said Secretary of Defense Patricia Lewis. "We have responsibilities to our own people first." The debate went on for hours. Some officials wanted to send a rescue mission. Others thought it was too dangerous. A few suggested trying to negotiate with the Void Swarm, though Helen pointed out that they had never communicated with anyone. Finally, President Campbell called for quiet. "Dr. Martinez, in your professional opinion, what would happen if we do nothing?" Helen took a deep breath. "The Zephyrians will die. Their entire civilization will be erased from the universe. And eventually, the Void Swarm will run out of targets in that part of the galaxy and start looking for new hunting grounds. They'll find us eventually, and if we go, we might save them. Or we might die trying, but at least we'll have tried." "President." Campbell nodded slowly. "Admiral Morrison, what kind of force could we put together?" Morrison consulted his notes. "We have the U-East Defiance, our newest heavy cruiser. She's got the latest weapons and shields, and she's designed for long range missions. We could also send the UES Courage, one of our escort ships. Total crew of about 200. 2 ships against 3 alien vessels the size of moons," Secretary Lewis said. "That's not a rescue mission. That's suicide." "Maybe," Morrison admitted. "But sometimes the impossible missions are the only ones worth doing." The president looked around the room. "I need to think about this. We'll meet again tomorrow." That night, Helen could not sleep. She kept thinking about the Zephyrian message, about the sadness in their final transmission. They had built a civilization based on beauty and harmony, and now they were facing extinction because no one would help them. She walked out onto her apartment balcony and looked up at the stars. Somewhere out there, crystal cities were going dark. Somewhere out there, an entire species was waiting to die. The next morning, she was back at the Pentagon. President Campbell looked tired, as if she had not slept either. "I've made my decision," the president said. "We're going to help them." The room erupted in arguments. But Campbell held up her hand for silence. I know the risks. I know we might lose. But I also know that if we don't try, we'll never forgive ourselves. And if we succeed, we'll have made the most important alliance in human history. She turned to Morrison. Admiral, prepare the Defiance for departure. You'll have whatever resources you need. Morrison nodded. I'll need volunteers for the crew. This is definitely a suicide mission. You'll have them, Campbell said. Americans have never backed down from a fight, especially when innocent people need help. Within hours, the news had spread across Earth. The planet's first interstellar rescue mission was being prepared. Volunteers flooded the recruitment centers, far more than could be accepted. Everyone wanted to be part of humanity's first great adventure in space. Captain Alex Turner was chosen to command the mission. He was young for a ship captain, but he had distinguished himself in the Mars colonies and the asteroid belt patrol. He was known for his quick thinking and his refusal to abandon anyone in danger. His crew was the best Earth had to offer. Maya Patel, a brilliant engineer who had designed half the systems on the Defiance. Ryan Brooks, a tactical officer who had trained on every weapon system in the fleet. Grace Williams, a communications specialist who spoke 12 languages and had worked with Helen on the Zephyrian translation. Dr. Helen Martinez was also assigned to the mission, despite her protests that she was a scientist, not a soldier. You're the only person who can talk to them, Turner explained. If we're going to save them, we need to be able to communicate. The Defiance was loaded with supplies, weapons, and a small fabrication unit that could manufacture basic equipment. It was not much compared to the vast alien ships they would face, but it was all humanity had. On the day of departure, thousands of people gathered at the spaceport to see them off. President Campbell gave a speech about courage and sacrifice, about the importance of helping others, even when it was dangerous. You carry with you the hopes of all humanity, she said. You go not as conquerors, but as friends. Not as invaders, but as rescuers. Show the galaxy what human beings are capable of when we stand together. As the Defiance lifted off, Helen watched Earth shrink behind them. They were leaving everything they knew, heading into the unknown to save P. The Defiance dropped out of faster-than-light travel at the edge of the Kepler 442 system, and Captain Alex Turner immediately knew they were too late. The view screen showed a scene from a nightmare, where the Zephyrian planet should have been. Glowing with crystal cities, there was only darkness. 3 massive ships hung in orbit like black tumors against the stars, each one easily 10 times the size of the Defiance. My God, whispered Maya Patel, staring at the tactical display. How are we supposed to fight those things? Avoid swarm ships were unlike anything in human experience. They looked alive, covered in a substance that seemed to absorb light. Itself. No windows, no obvious engines, no signs of the creatures inside. They moved with purpose, slowly draining the life from the planet below. Captain, called Grace Williams from the communication station. I'm picking up faint signals. From the planet's surface. Someone's still alive down there. Turner felt a surge of hope. Can you make contact? I'm trying. The signal is very weak, and it's in that harmonic language Dr. Martinez translated. It's like they're whispering. Helen Martinez hurried to the communications station, her fingers flying over the controls as she adjusted the translation program. After several minutes, a voice came through the speakers, sad and beautiful, even through the electronic distortion. This is Ambassador Lyrith, of the Zephyrian people. If anyone can hear this, we are still alive in the underground cities. The surface cities are gone, but we have managed to shield some of our people beneath the crystal layers. We do not have much time. Helen keyed the transmitter. Ambassador Lyrith, this is Dr. Helen Martinez of the human ship Defiance. We received your message and came to help. There was a long pause, then a sound like crystal bells ringing in harmony. Humans? But you are so far away. Your people are barely beginning to explore space. Why would you come? Because you asked for help, Helen said simply. And when someone asks for help, we answer. The joy in Lyrith's harmonic voice was unmistakable. We thought we were alone. The galaxy abandoned us, but you came. How many ships do you have? Turner took the microphone. 2 ships, Ambassador. The Defiance and the Courage. We're not much, but we're what Earth could send. Another pause, and Helen could hear the sadness creeping back into the alien's voice. 2 ships against 3 hive ships. Captain, I am grateful that you came, but the Void Swarm has destroyed civilizations with hundreds of warships. What can 2 human vessels do? We'll figure something out, Turner said. First, we need to understand what we're fighting. Can you tell us about the Void Swarm? Over the next hour, Lyrith shared everything the Zephyrians had learned about their attackers. The Void Swarm was not really a swarm at all, but 3 massive organisms that worked together like a single creature. They fed on the energy that kept planets alive, draining it slowly to avoid damaging the ecosystem until they were ready to consume everything at once. They are learning organisms, Lyrith explained. They adapt to any weapon used against them. The Federation tried to fight them with energy weapons, so they developed defenses against energy. They tried kinetic weapons, so the creatures learned to deflect solid projectiles. Each attack makes them stronger. What about their weaknesses? Asked Ryan Brooks, the tactical officer. They have one weakness we discovered too late to use. The creatures cannot process harmonic frequencies above a certain level. If you could generate a powerful enough resonance, it would disrupt their nervous systems. But the power required is enormous, more than our entire planet could produce. Maya. Patel looked up from her engineering console. What kind of frequency are we talking about? Lyrith provided the technical details, and Maya's eyes widened. That's not just a sound wave. That's a quantum resonance that would affect matter at the molecular level. We don't have anything that can produce that kind of output. Actually, Helen said slowly, we might. Maya, what if we combined our fusion reactors with their harmonic amplifiers? Could we create some kind of resonance bomb? Maya stared at her. That's insane. We'd have to modify the reactor core, reroute the plasma flow, and somehow integrate alien technology we don't understand. Even if it worked, the ship would probably be destroyed in the process. Would it stop the Void Swarm? Turner asked. Maya ran quick calculations on her tablet. If we could position the ship at the exact center of their formation and detonate the device, yes, the resonance would propagate through all 3 creatures simultaneously. They wouldn't be able to adapt in time. And the crew? Dead. Definitely dead. The resonance would tear apart every molecule in the ship. Turner looked around the bridge. At his crew, they were all young, all brilliant, all with their whole lives ahead of them. He had no right to ask them to die for aliens they had never met. Captain, Grace Williams said quietly, with respect, we all volunteered for this mission, knowing it was probably suicide. The question isn't whether we're willing to die. The question is whether we can make it count. The other crew members nodded in agreement. They had come to save the Zephyrians, and that was what they were going to do. All right, Turner said. Let's build a bomb. Dr. Martinez, ask Ambassador Lyrith H. if any of her people can help us with the technical details. Maya, I want you to start planning the modifications. Ryan, work out the tactical approach. Grace, keep monitoring the Void Swarm ships. I want to know if they've noticed us. The next few hours were a blur of activity. The Defiance moved carefully through the outer system, staying hidden behind asteroids and debris while the crew worked on their impossible plan. Maya Patel led a team of engineers who had to completely redesign the ship's power systems. Combining human fusion technology with Zephyrian, harmonic science. The work was complicated by the fact that they were trying to integrate technologies based on completely different principles. Human fusion reactors worked by containing and controlling nuclear reactions. Zephyrian harmonic amplifiers worked by manipulating the quantum vibrations of matter itself. Making them work together was like trying to make a symphony orchestra play jazz. The power curves don't match, Maya reported after hours of work. Our reactors produce steady output, but the harmonic amplifiers need fluctuating energy levels. We need to create a complex feedback system. I can help with that, came a new voice over the communicator. It was Veltar, the young Zephyrian engineer who had been working with his people to provide technical support. Our harmonic technology is based on natural resonance patterns. If you can modulate your power output to match the planet's core frequency, the amplifiers will automatically adjust. Maya and Veltar worked together across the vast distance, one human and one alien, combining their knowledge to create something neither species could have built alone. The language barrier was difficult, but mathematics and physics were universal. Meanwhile, Turner was dealing with his own problems. The Void Swarm had noticed the human ships and was beginning to send out scout vessels to investigate. The creatures were clearly intelligent, and they were not going to ignore potential threats. "Captain," reported Ryan Brooks, "we're getting energy readings from the hive ships. They're powering up weapon systems." "How long until we can deploy the resonance bomb?" Turner asked. "At least 4 more hours," Maya called from engineering. "We're trying to integrate systems that were never meant to work together. It's like performing surgery with a hammer." "We don't have 4 hours," Turner said, watching the tactical display. "The Void Swarm is moving to intercept us." "Then we need a distraction," Grace Williams said. "Something to keep them busy while we finish the modifications." Turner made a decision he hoped he would not regret. "Signal the Courage. Tell Commander Nick Thompson to begin attack pattern Alpha. Draw the Void Swarm away from our position." The Courage was Earth's newest escort ship, fast and maneuverable, but lightly armed. Against the massive hive ships, it was like a mosquito attacking an elephant. But sometimes mosquitoes could be very annoying. Thompson acknowledged the order and took his ship in a high-speed approach toward the nearest hive ship. The Courage fired everything it had, missiles and plasma cannons, creating bright flashes against the alien vessel's dark hull. The weapons did no visible damage, but they got the creature's attention. All 3 hive ships began moving toward the Courage, their organic weapon systems coming online. Turner watched in horror as massive tentacles of dark energy reached out. For the smaller ship, Thompson was a skilled pilot, but there was only so much he could do against opponents that size. "The Courage can't hold them off for long," Ryan reported. "Their shields are already down to 60%. "How much more time do you need?" Turner asked Maya. 2 hours minimum, she replied. "The harmonic resonance matrix is incredibly complex. One mistake and the whole system will collapse." Turner watched the battle on the view screen. The Courage was dancing between the hive ships, firing and running, trying to stay ahead of the alien weapons. But the Void Swarm was learning, adapting. T.O. Thompson's tactics. Soon they would corner the escort ship. "Captain," Helen said suddenly, "I have an idea. What if we don't wait for the modifications to be complete? What if we use the resonance bomb as a distraction itself?" "I don't follow." "The Void Swarm learns from every attack, but they've never encountered harmonic weapons before. If we can create a PA..." The resonance bomb was ready, but it came with a terrible price. The device had to be detonated from the exact center of the Void Swarm formation, which meant the Defiance would have to fly directly between the 3 massive hive ships. At that range, There would be no escape. Captain Alex Turner stood on the bridge, looking at the tactical display that showed their suicide mission. The 3 alien vessels hung in space like dark planets, their organic weapon systems now fully active, and searching for threats. Between them lay a gap barely wide enough for the Defiance to pass through. Final systems check. Turner ordered. Maya Patel's voice came over the intercom from engineering. Resonance bomb is charged and ready. Fusion reactors are running at maximum output. The harmonic amplifiers are synchronized with the planet's core frequency, just like Veltar suggested. Weapon systems online, reported Ryan Brooks from the tactical station. All defensive systems are active, but they won't help much against those weapons. Communications are clear, Grace Williams added. I'm maintaining contact with both the Courage and the Zephyrian survivors. Turner nodded. The plan was simple in theory, but almost impossible in practice. The Courage would create a distraction attack on the far side of the formation, drawing the Void Swarm's attention, while the alien creatures focused on the smaller ship. The Defiance would make its final approach through the gap between the hive ships. All stations report ready, Turner announced. Dr. Martinez, send our final message to Earth. Helen Martinez activated the deep space transmitter. This is the U-East Defiance. We are beginning our final approach. If we succeed, the Zephyrian people will be saved. If we fail, at least we tried. Tell our families we died doing what humans do best, helping others who cannot help themselves. The message would take days to reach Earth, but it felt important to send it. Turner looked around the bridge at his crew. They were all young, all brilliant, all about to die for people they had never met. He had never been more proud of them. Signal. The Courage, Turner ordered. Tell Commander Thompson to begin his attack run. On the other side of the Void Swarm formation, the smaller human ship began its desperate assault. Commander Nick Townsend pushed his vessel to its limits, firing every weapon he had at the nearest hive ship. Missiles exploded against the dark hull like fireworks, and plasma beams carved bright lines across the creature's surface. The damage was minimal, but the effect was immediate. All 3 hive ships began turning toward the Courage, their massive forms moving with surprising speed. Tentacles of dark energy reached out toward the smaller vessel, missing by meters as Thompson performed evasive maneuvers that would have killed a normal human crew. Now, Turner whispered, and the Defiance began its approach. Pilot Sarah Johnson sat at the helm, her hands steady on the controls despite the sweat beading on her forehead. She had trained for this moment, practiced the approach dozens of times in simulators, but the real thing was terrifying. The hive ships were so large, they created their own gravity fields, pulling at the Defiance as it flew between them. Entering the formation, Johnson reported, her voice calm despite the circumstances. Navigation is difficult. The gravitational fields are interfering with our guidance systems. Through the view screen, the crew could see the true horror of the Void Swarm up close. The hive ships were not just vessels, but living things, their hulls pulsing with organic rhythms. Dark veins ran along their surfaces, carrying unknown fluids. Clusters of sensors or weapons dotted their sides like infected wounds. They're beautiful in a horrible way, Helen whispered, staring at the alien structures. Like diseased angels. Keep us steady, Sarah, Turner said. Maya, how long until we reach optimal detonation point? 3 minutes at current speed, Maya replied from engineering. But Captain, the creatures are starting to notice us. I'm reading energy buildups across all 3 ships. The Void Swarm had realized they were being deceived. The attack on the Courage was just a distraction. The real threat was the small ship flying between them, carrying something they could not quite understand. Weapons lock, Ryan Brooks announced, his voice tight with tension. All 3 ships are targeting us? Evasive maneuvers, Turner ordered, but there was nowhere to go. They were flying through a narrow corridor between three massive enemies, with barely enough room to maneuver. First alien weapon fired, a beam of pure darkness that seemed to absorb light itself. Sarah Johnson threw the Defiance into a desperate roll, and the beam passed so close it scorched the ship's hull. Alarms began screaming throughout the vessel. "Hull breach on Deck 7, reported Maya. "Emergency bulkheads are holding, but we're venting atmosphere." "How much longer?" Turner asked. 2 minutes to optimal position," Sarah replied, fighting to keep the ship on course as more dark beams reached for them. On the other side of the formation, the Courage was in trouble. Thompson's ship had taken multiple hits, and its shields were failing. But the commander refused to retreat, continuing his attack to keep the Void Swarm's attention divided. "The Courage is taking heavy damage," Grace reported. "Commander Thompson says he can hold on for another minute, maybe two." The Defiance shook as another alien weapon grazed its shields. The defensive systems were failing under the assault, and pieces of the ship were beginning to break away. In engineering, Maya Patel worked frantically to keep the resonance bomb operational as explosions rocked the vessel around her. "Resonance matrix is holding," she announced. "But if we take another direct hit, the whole system could collapse." 30 seconds to optimal position," Sarah called out. Her voice strained as she fought to control the damaged ship. The Void Swarm creatures had figured out what the humans were trying to do. All three hive ships began moving inward, trying to crush the Defiance between their massive hulls. The gap that had seemed barely wide enough before was now closing rapidly. "They're going to crush us," Ryan said, watching the tactical display. "Not if we detonate first," Turner replied. He opened a ship-wide channel. "All hands, prepare for detonation. It's been an honor serving with you." 10 seconds to optimal position, Sarah announced. The hive ships were so close now that their hulls filled the view screen. Dark energy weapons charged all around them, ready to obliterate the small human vessel. In a few seconds, it would all be over. 5 seconds, Sarah said. "Maya, prepare to detonate on my mark," Turner ordered. 4 seconds. The Void Swarm weapons fired, beams of darkness converging on the Defiance from 3 directions. 3 seconds. Turner saw his crew around him, these brave young people who had volunteered to die for strangers. He thought of Earth, so far away, and hoped their sacrifice would mean something. 2 seconds. The dark beams were almost upon them, death reaching. Out with cold fingers. 1 second. Mark. Detonating now. Maya shouted dot. The resonance bomb exploded at the exact moment the Void Swarm weapons reached the Defiance. For an instant, the space between the hive ships was filled with pure harmonic energy, a song of destruction that tore through the aliens' nervous systems like a blade. But the explosion was different than anyone had expected. Instead of destroying the Defiance instantly, the harmonic resonance created a protective bubble around the ship. The dark energy weapons struck the bubble and were deflected, their power turned back against the creatures that had fired them. "We're alive," Sarah gasped, staring at her instruments in disbelief. "The resonance field is protecting us," Maya reported, her voice filled with wonder. "The harmonic frequencies are creating a quantum barrier that deflects their weapons." But the real effect was on the Void Swarm itself. The 3 massive creatures writhed in space, their organic hulls convulsing as the resonance tore through their nervous systems. For the first time in their existence, they were experiencing something they could not adapt to, could not overcome. "It's working," Helen breathed, watching the alien ships through the view screen. "They're dying." The creatures fought the resonance with everything they had, trying to modify their biology to resist the harmonic attack. But the frequency was too precise, too perfectly tuned to their weaknesses. One by one, their weapon systems failed. "There," Movement became erratic, uncontrolled. "Captain," Grace called out, "I'm receiving a transmission from the planet. Ambassador Lyrith says the creatures are releasing their hold on the planetary core. The Zephyrian cities are beginning to glow." Again. Turner felt a surge of hope, but he knew the battle was not over. The Void Swarm was wounded, but not dead. They were still adapting, still trying to find a way to survive. "Maya, can we increase the resonance output?" he asked, not without destroying. "The ship," she replied. "We're already at maximum power." The largest of the hive ships suddenly stopped writhing and began to move toward them with renewed purpose. Somehow, it was beginning to adapt to the harmonic attack. "One of them is fighting off the resonance," Ryan reported. "It's moving to attack position." Turner realized they had one chance left. The Defiance was damaged, but still functional. If they could ram the adapted creature while the resonance field was still active, the close-range harmonic pulse might be enough to finish it. "Sarah, set collision course with a large hive ship," he ordered. "Sir?" Sarah asked, not sure she had. "Heard correctly. You heard me. Full speed, straight at them. We're going to ram them." The Defiance tour. The silence after the battle was broken by the most beautiful sound Captain Alex Turner had ever heard. From the planet below came a harmonic chorus, thousands of Zephyrian voices joining together in a song of celebration. The crystal cities were glowing again, their light visible even from space. "Captain," Grace Williams called from the communication station, "Ambassador Lyrat H is requesting permission to come aboard." Turner looked around the damaged bridge of the Defiance. Half the control panels were dark. The air smelled of burned electronics, and they were lucky to be alive. But they had done the impossible. They had defeated the Void Swarm. "Permission granted," Turner said. "And Grace, send a message to the Courage. Tell Commander Thompson to dock with us for repairs." An hour later, Turner stood in the main cargo bay, watching as the first Zephyrian transport ship landed inside the Defiance. The alien vessel was beautiful, shaped like a crystal flower that sang as it moved. When it touched down, the cargo bay, filled with harmonic tones that made the metal walls vibrate gently. The transport's door opened with a sound like wind chimes, and Ambassador Lyrat stepped out. She was smaller than Turner had expected, about the size of a human child, but her crystal body blazed with internal light. Behind her came several other Zephyrians, their forms glowing in different colors. "Captain Turner," Lyrat said, her harmonic voice somehow speaking perfect English through their translation device. "I cannot find words in any language to express our gratitude." "You don't need words," Turner replied. "We heard your call for help. We came. When the galaxy abandoned us, when even our own hope was gone, you traveled across the stars to save us. Why, we have never met your species before. We have nothing to offer you." Turner thought about the question. Why had they come? Earth was a small planet. Humanity was young and weak compared to the great civilizations of the galaxy. They had risked everything for people they had never met. "Because it was the right thing to do," he said finally. "Because when someone calls for help, you answer." Lyrith's crystal form pulsed with emotion. "The Galactic Federation has ships beyond counting, weapons we cannot imagine, and they chose to let us die. But you, with 2 small vessels and brave hearts, succeeded where they would not even try." Dr. Helen Martinez stepped forward. "Ambassador, we're honored to have helped, but we need to know about the galaxy we've just entered. The Federation abandoned you, but what will they do when they learn humans defeated the Void Swarm?" "That is a very good question," Lyrat admitted. "The Federation will not be pleased. They have spent decades telling themselves that the Void Swarm could not be defeated. Your victory makes them look like cowards. Will they try to stop us from going home?" Turner asked. "They might. But you will not be traveling alone. Lirith's voice took on a new quality, stronger and more determined. The Zephyrian people will never forget what you have done. We offer you our friendship, our technology, and our protection. Over the next few days, as both ships underwent repairs, Turner learned more about the galaxy humanity had just entered. The Galactic Federation was not the noble alliance he had imagined. It was a collection of old, tired civilizations that had grown comfortable and afraid. They preferred safety to justice, isolation to involvement. There are dozens of worlds that need help, Lyrith explained as she toured the Defiance with Turner and his senior officers. Pirates raid the outer colonies, slavers take people from undefended planets, and criminal organizations grow stronger every year. The Federation ignores it all, saying it is not their responsibility. What about the other species? Maya Patel asked. Surely some of them want to help. Some do, Lirith admitted, but they are outvoted by the majority who prefer not to get involved. The Federation has become a club for the privileged, not a force for good. As the repairs continued, something unexpected happened. Ships began arriving in the system, not Federation vessels but independent craft from species Turner had never heard of. The first was a sleek vessel from the Andorian Republic, followed by a mining ship from the Tau Sishun colonies. Word of your victory is spreading, Lyrith H. explained. These are representatives from worlds that have been ignored by the Federation, places that have faced their own troubles with no help from anyone. Captain Jenny Clark of the Andorian ship came aboard the Defiance, a tall, blue-skinned humanoid with silver hair and bright green eyes. She looked around the damaged bridge with obvious respect. So you're the humans, she said. 2 ships against the Void Swarm. Either you're the bravest species in the galaxy or the craziest. Maybe both, Turner admitted. Good, Clark grinned. The galaxy needs more crazy, brave people. The Andorian Republic would like to establish diplomatic relations with Earth. More ships arrived each day. The Deltans, who had been fighting a losing war against pirates. The vegan colonies, who were struggling to survive on the galactic frontier. The free traders of the Centauri cluster, who had been blockaded by the Federation for refusing to pay tribute. Each group had the same story. They had asked the Federation for help and been ignored. They had sent distress calls that went unanswered. They had watched their people suffer while the great powers of the galaxy looked away. You have started something, Lyrith H. told Turner. As they watched the growing fleet of ships in orbit around the Zephyrian world. These people see what you did for us, and they have hope again. A week after the battle, as the Defiance prepared to depart for Earth, Turner received an unexpected message. It was from Earth, but not from the government or the military. It was from ordinary people around the world who had heard about the mission. Captain Turner, the message began, this is Maria Santos from Mexico City. We just heard what you did. Out there, you made us proud to be human. More messages followed. Farmers from Iowa, factory workers from Detroit, students from Tokyo, all sending their thanks and support. Word of humanity's first interstellar rescue mission had spread around Earth, and people were celebrating. But there was other news, too. President Campbell reported that several alien ships had arrived in Earth's solar system, all flying flags of species Turner had never heard of. They were requesting permission to establish embassies, to trade, to form alliances. It seems you've made quite an impression, Campbell said in her message. The galaxy is taking notice of humanity. The return trip to Earth took 3 weeks, but Turner was not traveling alone. A small fleet of alien ships accompanied the Defiance, including Lyrith's personal vessel and representatives from a dozen different worlds. They called themselves the Free Alliance, and they wanted to meet the species that had answered the call when no one else would. When the fleet arrived at Earth, they found a celebration waiting for them. Every ship in Earth's small fleet was in orbit, along with dozens of alien vessels that had come to welcome humanity to the galactic community. Not the Federation's community of comfortable, cowardly powers, but a new community of species who believed in helping each other. Turner stood on the bridge of the Defiance, looking down at the blue and white marble that was his home. They had left as a desperate rescue mission, 2 small ships against impossible odds. They were returning as the founders of something new, something the galaxy had not seen in centuries. "Captain," Grace Williams called from the communication station, "we're receiving a message from the Galactic Federation. They want to speak with Earth's government about establishing formal relations." Turner almost laughed. Now that humanity had proven itself, the Federation wanted to talk. Now that Earth had shown it could stand up to threats the Federation feared, they wanted to be friends. "Tell them to get in line," Turner said. "We've got more important things to do." Ambassador Lyra H. stood beside him, her crystal form glowing with contentment. "What will you do now, Captain? You have saved one world, but there are many others that need help." Turner looked out at the fleet of ships surrounding Earth, representatives of dozens of species who had been ignored, abandoned, or forgotten by the powers that ruled the galaxy. They were looking to humanity for leadership, for hope, for someone who would answer when they called for help. "We're going to do what humans do best," Turner said. "We're going to help." 6 months later, the U's Defiance led a fleet of 30 ships from 12 different species on humanity's second interstellar rescue mission. This time they were heading to the Rigel system, where a plague was killing millions, and the Federation had declared the area a quarantine zone. The message humanity sent ahead of them was broadcast on all frequencies, in every known language. "This is the Free Alliance fleet. We received your distress call. We are coming to help." Dr. Helen Martinez, now Earth's first ambassador to the Free Alliance, stood on the bridge of the new flagship, a vessel built with technology shared by all the member species. Through the viewports, she could see ships from dozens of worlds, all united by a simple principle that the galaxy had forgotten. When someone calls for help, you answer. The Galactic Federation had ignored the Zephyrian plea, but humanity had come to save them. In doing so, they had awakened something the galaxy desperately needed. They had reminded the stars that compassion was not weakness, that courage was not foolishness, and that sometimes the smallest voices could change everything. The galaxy had ignored the plea, but human